And now, live in studio, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
Hello and welcome into the Consumer Quarterback Show with your host, Brandon Rhymes. Brandon is out today. You've got your backup quarterback, James DeJerome, in the seat. We are committed to providing the same program that we always do. Brandon has trusted me to provide the consumer advocate role that he plays. I'm going to do that for you today. One of the things that Brandon does is provide a little bit of positivity. I'm going to do that as well. And, of course, we've got our team together to make sure that I can handle this role he's put me in. So we got Jose back there on the board. If you're listening to us on AM 1380 now, that's Jose back there keeping us sounding correct. Of course, Dee is our intern. Dee meets everybody at the door and makes sure that we're doing everything correctly here. So, Dimitri, thanks so much for your work. Rob is our tech from WeBeam. So all you folks out there watching the program rather than listening, you're looking at Rob's work on WeBeam TV. The show is available on quite a few different outlets. So we talk a little bit about the radio side on AM 1380. We're going to be moving. Our radio home is going to change on September 26th. We're going to move to 860 AM. It's a big move for us, a larger station, bigger signal, and more the same as far as the program goes. On the video side, in addition to WeBeam, Binge Networks is carrying the program. So we're available on any smart TVs out there by searching the Consumer Quarterback Show. So take a look at us. Make sure you check us out online. And again, we've done a great job of committing ourselves to consumer advocacy, trying to find folks out there that can provide some information, some knowledge, give you a little bit more power in the marketplace as a consumer. To that end, I've got some partners joining me today on the program. Lauren Frieder is here from Frank Charles Miranda Law. Lauren has put together a bunch of different things that I don't think you know about. Everyone thinks they know. See, I watch a lot of Law & Order just like you do, and so we think that we're all ready to go to trial, but there's some things that I think we need to go over a little bit. So she's got some information for you. I think it'll be valuable. Garry Schofield from Febre Frameworks is here. Now, Febre does all the real estate stuff for Brandon. So Brandon's got properties he's selling all over, but Febre's not just in the Bay Area. They're in Jacksonville. They're expanding all over the state, and Gary's going to tell us a little bit about that. I want to jump in here and let Lauren just preview a little bit, Lauren, if you could, some of the stuff that you brought in today.
Well, thank you for having me back again. Based off the last time I was on the radio, I got a lot of feedback from people asking different questions basically about what the difference between an attorney and a litigator is one of the big things I wanted to talk about.
Now, there's no difference, right?
There's a huge difference.
What do you mean? Is every litigator an attorney?
Every litigator is an attorney, but not all attorneys are litigators.
Okay, stand by. We got some information for you out there. Gary, in addition to the expansion, talk about what Febre does just in general. I mean, you guys do the real estate stuff, but more than that.
Oh, yeah, it's full service. So real estate is our biggest niche, of course, but we do headshots, which are your marketing photography for your business cards or social media platforms. We do weddings.
Okay.
And virtual staging, I guess, is mainly real estate.
Right.
And, of course, the drones are out there, which cover a huge market.
If you want to make your house look good, fly a drone. Let these guys come over and fly a drone over there. You'll get a lot more eyeballs on your property for sure.
If you have a nice roof, yeah.
All right, Lauren. So again, I'm a veteran, I'm a Law & Order guy. I know everything that's ever been on the show. You tell me there's a difference between an attorney and a litigator. What are you talking about?
Well, I think the biggest thing we need to start with off is that people always tend to assume when you hear, when people think about lawyers, that we all litigate or that we're always in court when you think about criminal attorneys or criminal lawyers.
Sure.
And there's a huge difference. First of all, just understanding what an attorney is just basically someone who's an agent who has authority to represent either an individual, a business entity in different legal matters.
Must an attorney have a degree?
You need to have a JD.
Okay.
But then also, so it's basically when you're thinking about an attorney, it's anyone who's licensed to practice law. They can refer to themselves as an attorney or a lawyer.
Okay.
Attorney is going to be more of a professional term. So if I saw you at a party and you're like, what do you do for a living, Lauren? I'd say, I'm a lawyer. Now, if you look at my business cards, it's going to say trial attorney. Mm-hmm. I could keep going as always if you wanted me to, but litigator is just a subspecies. It's a particular area of focus. Most attorneys don't go to court. So when you're hearing, when I always say I'm a civil litigator, that means you can find me in the courthouse.
Let's back up a second. What do you mean most lawyers don't go to court?
There's so many specialty areas of law. I think the public's misinformed all the time. Even I thought when I was a little kid, when I decided I wanted to be an attorney,
right,
that automatically meant I was going to be in the courthouse.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of attorneys, and there's nothing wrong with this. It's the area of specialty that you practice in that do not go to court. So if you think about somebody who might just specialize simply in business transactions, writing contracts, they're not necessarily going to go to court. So you really need to understand a litigator is a subset. It's different than a criminal lawyer. And those are the kind of, when we're talking about Law and Order, which I don't watch anymore because I learned that that's the wrong way to look at stuff. Litigator and trial attorney often get confused as well too. And that there's a whole story behind that. So we are trial attorneys, but we're also litigators.
So if I'm out there and I need an attorney, I've got a legal issue, I need to decide, is this something we're going to go to court with? Because that changes who I'm going to pick.
Absolutely. It definitely does. You need to, when you're deciding who you're going to pick as an attorney, you really need to go, we've talked about this multiple times, your due diligence. I make the joke, just because you see an attorney on TV or on a billboard, that does not mean they go to court.
Right.
You need to vet them. You need to ask them what their experience is, not only if they just are a litigator, if you're looking to go to court, but what another subset area of specialty. So even though I say I'm a civil litigator, we specialize a lot in real estate litigation, business litigation, landlord-tenant law litigation. But if somebody came to me with a workers' comp litigation case, I would refer it because I know that that's not an area that I'm versed in well enough, and I would want to make sure that they got competent, adequate representation.
Is there a resource for someone out there to actually look at your history, your trial history, or find out what this guy's done over the years?
Well, of course, for attorneys, and other people could log onto this too, I always look at something called Westlaw, but that's a kind of an attorney practice tool because I'm always tracking to see which attorneys go to court,
right,
how often they win and lose. But that's a question you could ask for the attorney you might be consider hiring. Also on their website, they should be, a lot of times they'll show verdicts. They'll talk about, how many times they've received good trial verdicts, big settlements. Those things matter. So you need to have a conversation with the attorney and see if they're that area, if you're asking them to do something, are they actually even able to do it? Because I have a lot of people that end up coming to us and they thought, oh, this attorney, I thought they could handle it. But when it came time to go to court, the attorney backed out. And now it's, the case isn't necessarily in the best position because they were working it in a way that they just wanted to settle it, which is fine. But you also have to have the ability to go to court if you're not liking the offers or how the case is progressing. The Florida bar offers, obviously, they don't necessarily tell you a track record of stuff, but you can look up and to see what specialty area somebody might practice in, if they're board certified. It will tell you different things like that.
So to make an educated decision, you'd like to find someone who has an experience in a similar case, or someone who has some experience in the field you're looking to litigate in, and then likely what has happened. What are the judgments that they've received over the course of their career? Absolutely.
It's really important because, the more someone is comfortable, an attorney is comfortable going to court, the more relaxed, and you should never be relaxed, but
right,
it's, I always make the joke when I walk into the Hillsborough County Courthouse, I feel like I'm back at high school because we see the same attorneys there all the time. And if you're not there all the time, then you're missing out on the game. It's a game. Litigation's a game. It's a game of kings and money. So you've got to be prepared when you're picking the right law firm.
Lauren did a great job last time she was on. If you haven't seen it, you can always go on some of our archival, the website, and look back at some of the previous shows. But she talked about just some common sense things about going to court that needs you think about before you go into the courtroom. Just simple things about your appearance and the timing and how to address people and things like that oftentimes are neglected. Can you just give a summary real quick?
Yeah, so we did a lot of tips for if you're going to go pro se in court. Obviously, one was being on time,
Sure,
which means be early. Another one was don't interrupt the judge. Stop talking when the judge starts talking. Do not hurl insults at opposing counsel or the judge. I mean, I've seen it all. It's pretty interesting. But when you're rude to people in the courthouse, you're not going to get anywhere. Be nice to the judicial assistants, the bailiffs. All these people are there all the time. And, they're dealing with hundreds of cases. So you're just, one in thousands. And
right,
you don't want to be remembered for being that idiot that was rude to the judge.
No, I think it's easy to get frustrated when you're dealing with these kind of things because it seems like especially because you don't have the knowledge on your side. So you're a little frustrated by not understanding what's going on. You feel like I'm not communicating. No one's telling me what's happening. This relationship with the attorney and the idea that you're going to walk someone through the process and tell them what's going to happen. Boy, that's critical to making them feel at ease and understand what's going on.
It is really critical. If you go pro se in court, you're absolutely held to the same standard that I am or any other attorney is, to know the rules and the law. The judge cannot help you because they're supposed to be an impartial decision maker. So if they're helping the pro se person, now as an attorney, I'm going to sit there and say, hey, this isn't fair. I can't get a fair shake at the case. And so I always say, please do not represent yourself if you can avoid it in court, because it's very complex. And how terrible would it be to lose when you have a great case just because you didn't know a rule of procedure, so you missed a timeline.
Do you find that people, that's because they don't trust the attorney, or they just are so egotistical that they feel like they're going to jump in there and do a better job?
Both, actually.
Yeah, just a surprise. Why would you try to wade into this field of all?
I honestly don't know. Law is extremely complex. You're always learning. It's an area of law. Law is so exciting because you can never know enough. Everything changes day to day. You got to know if some case law that happened yesterday affects how you're going to present your case today. You have to stay up to date. It's just exactly why I wouldn't go and pretend that I could adequately represent myself in a doctor situation. I'm just think of an example. But.
So just to summarize, attorney versus litigator, there are differences. And just real quickly again, what's the best case scenario for each one? When do you want a litigator?
You want a litigator when you know you're going to need to be in the courthouse, whether it's because you're going to be bringing a claim or defending one. Litigation and trial attorneys are a little bit different. There's a little bit misconstrued behind it. A litigator means that, we're, like I said, we're going to be in court a lot, performing a lot of tasks that are motion hearing, voir dire selection, which is jury selection. But that doesn't mean we're always going to end up in trial as a trial attorney. Most of the time cases don't make it to trial. You're putting your faith into either a jury that doesn't get all the facts. We can get into tort reform, so they're misled. Or maybe a judge that doesn't actually know the area of law. They rotate the judges around. So maybe the judge, before they became one, their specialty was family law, and now they're sitting in complex business litigation. So it's a gamble. You're rolling the dice. So as a litigator, we're in the courthouse. It's considered a specialty, just as the specialties when you think about intellectual property attorneys. And
you guys kind of assess the chances for them. The outside we say, we want to sue this person and go to court and do this, and then you got to kind of say, well, here's the reality is you may, the success ratio may be a little bit lower than you think you're going to get out of this.
Absolutely. I'm always honest with my clients. Obviously, nothing is ever guaranteed, but it's really important, and this is something I wanted to touch base on, when you're trying to pick the right attorney, and if you already have an attorney, to always be honest with them. If you're keeping things away from me and I don't know about it, now I've developed a whole strategy based off of what you've told me, and now there's some surprise attack in court. It's actually going to cost you more money because now I got to go back and fix it.
Yeah.
And it could cost you your case.
So that communication critical, and that relationship between you and your attorney. We're going to get more into that with Lauren as we come back from the break here. And we're going to talk to Garry a little bit about Febre and everything that's going on with Febre. I just want to get our audience thinking about our subjects today, and we'll provide some good knowledge for you. Plus, we got that feel-good story coming up. So just hang out there with us. Consumer Quarterback Show rolls on.
This is Warwick Dunn, and you're listening to the Real Estate Quarterback Show hosted by my man, Brandon Rhymes.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by TrueLeaf on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. You're listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
That's right. ConsumerQB.com is the place you can go to find information about all our partners on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Brandon Rhymes has put together this show as a way of providing power to the consumers, a way to give you a little bit more purchasing power out there in the marketplace. We're going to give you some knowledge, and to that end, I've got Garry Schofield joining me. Now, Garry, Febre's been with Brandon for such a long time. They work together on the real estate side for years. Now, you guys expand and do all different kinds of things. I remember when you first came on the show, you've got a long history here in the Bay Area. I remember you talking about going back a generation or two here.
Oh, yes. My mother's side of the family settled back here in the late 1800s.
How about that?
From up north. They traded some land. The government actually offered, I forget what acreage, I think it was 100 acre or 10 acres down here in Florida for every acre of farmland they had up in Ohio.
How about that?
So they were trying to get people to move down here, and recently my grandmother just passed away a few weeks ago. She was the last of that historical, that era anyway.
Right.
Still a lot of Bierces around, but yeah, so a lot of history here. This is home for our family.
That's that whole area, right? Up there by Barris.
Yes.
And now, you said 10 acres.
I think it was 10 acres for every 1 acre they had.
Oh,
so when they came
you.
down here, I'm thinking he had around 100 acres at one time, or his father did.
Man, I know the real estate talk on this show would certainly like to get their hands on 100 acres right in that Bears area now.
Oh, you know what? It was one of the last areas to be developed. My uncle sold that property across the street. It was the last grove they had. I think it was 18 acres there, where that produce stand is.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was my other uncle's house there, but it's still there. But all they have left is on Lake Magdalene now.
All right, so long time Bay Area knowledge coming from Garry Schofield, Febre Frameworks. As I said, Febre does all kinds of photography stuff, and in addition to the drone photography that Brandon loves showing all the time on the show. You guys are in the Bay Area, but you're also Jacksonville, you're telling me.
We're all over. They are really pushing the expansion right now, and why wouldn't you?
Sure. Real estate's not going to stop selling anytime soon.
So successful. So, yeah, we recently went down to Sarasota, Bradenton, Manatee, and Sarasota counties. We have a photographer in Jacksonville now. I'm heading up there tomorrow for a few days to go drum up some business up there and get him rolling. And Jacksonville's geographically a pretty large area.
So I know from I got a background in photography too, but the drone thing, man, takes people by. They're just like, wow, you know, they've got pictures of their house. And the first thing was the tour, the interior tour. People love that. But the drone thing, man, people just want to look at they just watch the drone video just to watch the video.
Yeah, so the drone's so important. And by the way, they're free with all of our packages, our real estate packages.
Okay.
So there's some other companies out there. All of our photographers are licensed FAA pilots to be able to do this. In fact, I found something out. A lot of these drones now, the FAA has mechanisms in there to where if they're in a restricted area, that drone is not able to fly.
So they'll just simply take control of the thing.
So exactly. So instead of hoping nobody flies near an airport or something, they put that control mechanism in there, which is a good idea.
Yeah, I bet you better have a license pretty soon. They're going to come right to your door.
Yep, important. Talking about legal issues, that if you get drone photography done, make sure they are FAA licensed pilots. Part
Just
107.
a heads up out there. That's why you get in touch with Febre Frameworks. I know, like I said, I catch myself watching just to watch it. I like to look at the videos.
It's great. In Florida, there's so many golf courses, waterfront, lakefront. Just to give you an idea of the subdivision, the surrounding, or how big a property really is from the air, bird's eye view, and
shows off the weather a little bit too.
You get a lot of views. Yeah, absolutely, and you get a lot of views you can't get driving down the street for sure.
Absolutely. So I know part of the thing you guys do with the virtual staging is kind of mind-blowing that you create I don't know how it's computer generated obviously, but how do you guys figure out, I mean, who does that for you?
Jeanette, which by the way had her and her husband had a young boy this past week.
Well, congratulations to Jeanette. She's been on the show before.
They're all doing well, and also one of our editors had a baby girl.
So Febre's expanding not only statewide but also in the office.
Population-wise too, yeah.
Now, tell me about the. Wait, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. I thought I had a good joke there, but
you probably do. Yeah, where were we?
No, we were talking a little bit about Febre and you guys expanding into the different areas and the drone thing, but the headshots and Jeanette having the baby, I was just curious to know, you hire new people over there? You got so much going on.
Yeah, virtual tour is what we were talking about. But yes, they are hiring. In fact, there's 2 in the office today being trained, and so yeah, with the expansion,
right.
Not only photographer-wise, but also the editors, the staff. Hopefully someday I'll get a sales partner to help me with sales. And,
so if you're listening, but no, I'm just saying the virtual staging, I'm baffled. You guys take an empty house, and then I take a tour, and it's got this beautiful, like a state-of-the-art furniture in there.
So I've not witnessed how they do that. I have seen the before and after photos, and I do the same thing you do. I go, wow. I mean, how'd you do that?
Right. So I'm sure you guys have to keep an eye on technology as well. So in addition to adding the drones, if there's a new program out there, a new way to look at things, or something you got to learn, you guys are on top of it, huh?
Sure. The drone's changing all the time. Better, smaller, better suited for what we do. The equipment behind the scenes, the computers are huge that they edit these things with.
Right.
Because especially videos, they take up so much space. I mean, a lot of
storage space.
So without the computers that they use, and of course they use a lot of the Dropbox for storage, but while they're working on it, they got to have the best computers to handle all this.
I'm sure. Now, Brandon, he loves getting you guys out there to take professional pictures of his properties. Do you guys ever... I'm sure there's already pictures of some properties out there, and you go in and take more photos, and people would say, well, that's not the same house, or that looks totally different, or what, how do you do that? So the angles, the perspectives that you give, all that stuff is going to influence the sale, guys. I mean, that's what it's about, is trying to get more eyes to look at your property and to see it in a different way. The photography is really the first contact between most people looking for a home. It's what they do is they go online and they start looking at pictures, and from those pictures they start to see themselves in the house or not. So it's really the first step.
You're exactly right. I mean, people are visual. I talk about that quite often. You pull up an MLS listing or on Zillow or something, the first thing that captures your eye is the photo. I talk about the importance of the photography for realtors all the time. 90% of the people who are looking online, they're going to look at that first photo. If it doesn't look great, they're going to scroll through the other thousands. They have so many to look for. What's going to make them stop on yours? That first photo is key.
And that is the hunt now. It seems like for almost every shopping, almost everything we do starts with a little quick online search or look on your phone for a couple of examples or something like that. So that idea that you're going to create that display or at least catch their eye, that's the whole ball game, really, is getting that first thumbnail looked at so they can pursue and push into it a little bit to find out what you're really offering.
Yeah, and it's worked out really well when the homeowner says, that's my house. They can't even believe how good it looks in some of the photos. Then you know it's good stuff.
It's just documented that it reduces time on the market. The more flattering the photographs are, the more they're out there, the less time you're going to have to worry about selling that property. And that's the game down here. You know how everyone is into this flipping a property. How long do I have to hold it? When can I get rid of it? Boy, you want to call Febre and get the flattering photographs up there ASAP, right? As soon as you can, because that's what's going to sell the house.
Yeah, you took a few of my points, though. But good job. Somebody did their homework.
Well, look, I'm guest hosting. You know what I mean? I don't get many shots at this.
Well, good job.
I've got a point.
Go ahead.
I was actually, when Garry was talking, I really was thinking when you were talking about making sure, when you fly these drones, this is why you want to hire somebody like Garry, because not only is it important from what Garry was saying from a legal standpoint, another legal standpoint is when you're flying these drones, you need to look into city code, county ordinances, because there are things what we call invasion of privacy. So depending on how high up you can fly these drones, if you're thinking about if you live in downtown Tampa, perhaps you need to make sure you do have that clearance before you go 10 stories high in an apartment.
Absolutely an area that we're going to see develop legally as we go forward. There's no question there's going to be more precedent and more things going on with these things because everyone's got one. Every kid on my street's flying them. So it's only a matter of time till some issues come up somehow.
Yeah.
All right, so as Consumer Quarterback, stay with us. We're going to close up this first half of the show. We got Lauren and Garry here. We're going to get some good stuff. Feel-good story coming your way. Consumer Quarterback Show, doing our best to provide that random act of kindness and that inside knowledge that makes you a more informed consumer. Thanks so much for Brandon giving me the opportunity. Come on back. Listen to the second half of the show. Brandon Rhymes, Consumer Quarterback Show.
Hey, this is Jarek Robbins. You are listening to the Consumer.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by Trulieve on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. You're listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-670-7372.
Welcome back to the Consumer Quarterback Show with Brandon Rhymes. Brandon is out today. James DeJerome is your backup host. I've got Lauren Frieder from Frank Charles Miranda Law and Garry Schofield from Febre Frameworks here. We're going to tell you something positive in our feel-good segment coming up. It's about eviction. A 102-year-old lady. You believe someone wants to evict a 102-year-old woman, but we got a good ending on that story. So stay with us for our Consumer Quarterback Show, Random Act of Kindness, the feel-good story like Brandon always does. So we've been talking a little bit about different ways to hire an attorney, things you need to know about your attorney when you're getting into an attorney situation. And then Garry told us a little bit about Febre and everything that's going on at Febre and why that real estate photography is so important to your real estate sale. I want to just go back to Lauren a little bit. Lauren, we talked about what's the difference between a trial lawyer and an attorney and the civil and litigation. What about when you have the wrong attorney? So what if you hired an attorney and you want to make a change?
Well, a lot of people don't realize that they can change attorneys or law firms at any time. It's your absolute right. I actually get this question a lot. They feel like, oh, I signed up with this attorney and now I'm stuck. I don't like where my case is progressing or how the attorney is handling the case. And they feel like they have no option but just to stay with that attorney. It's absolutely 100% not true. You always have the right to change attorneys and law firms. just like as attorneys, we have the right to get rid of you as the client.
Now, the reason I brought that up is because in the real estate world, I get this, Brandon tells me this all the time. I'm working with a realtor, and then they find out, hey, this person has another realtor they're working with, and they feel as if they've undercut each other, or they're working against each other. In the world, I could see, I have an attorney. Did she do the right thing? I want to check with another attorney to see if I can trust this attorney. So I'm creating some bad blood, or is that even what happens?
It's absolutely okay to go run as a client your case by another attorney. We have what we call attorney-client confidentiality. So if you're kind of at the point where you're not sure, because maybe your attorney is doing everything right, and a lot of people don't realize that. They get frustrated with the system, understandably. We live this day to day, so we know you got to be patient. It's not always going to be the best outcome. A small win one day and a big win the next day. It just depends. So you can go talk with another attorney. It's kind of like a consultation. You should let them know, though, that you are represented. Okay. Absolutely let them know, because they need to know that.
Right. And the process of in trial changing of attorney requires the court system, right?
Yes, absolutely. Once, for example, if I filed a lawsuit and now we're already in the court system, so that means I have a notice of appearance in, I represent client so-and-so, and if they wanted to switch, the court is going to have to enter an order granting a motion to withdraw as counsel. And then typically what happens is the client then has, depending on if they're an individual or an entity, 20 to 30 days to go ahead and find new counsel. During that time, everything's going to stay the case for the most part. And hopefully you go retain somebody that knows what they're doing, and they have enough time to actually catch up on the case to see what's going on. And it's also important, I've talked about this before, in Florida, if you're an entity, a corporation, an LLC, you must be represented by an attorney for going to court.
I'm not sure I understand that point exactly. You don't have the ability to represent yourself.
You should. No, you're not allowed. I've seen people somehow get away with it here and there. I don't know how they're really not caught.
You said in Florida, as it's unique to this state.
I don't ever want to speak beyond Florida when it comes to certain things, because you have to understand every state it has different rules.
Yeah, that's why we need an attorney, guys.
It could be different. I'm from Ohio. It could be different in Ohio. I don't know.
Okay.
And another thing to think about when you're looking to pick an attorney, when you're talking about if this is the right attorney, some attorneys are licensed to practice law in Florida, but not in the federal court systems in Florida. Whereas I am able to practice in the federal court systems. So I see attorneys who take cases, and I'm thinking, why would you take this? Because you can't go practice in federal courts. But they took it anyways.
So what qualifies you, Lauren, to be able to practice in a federal court?
Well, in the Middle District of Florida, you have to just be a licensed, Florida licensed attorney in good standing with the Florida bar. You go take an oath. It's different in different districts for the federal courts.
Okay.
So it just kind of depends. Obviously, you need people to attest to your character, other attorneys that are already licensed into it. The Florida bar is extremely strict, and they do a really good job at making sure, obviously, you hear there's bad attorneys out there, but that's just in any profession and industry.
Is there an automatic review process within the bar, so that after 5 years we look at X attorney, or does it trigger a complaint to trigger a review of some attorney?
I've never heard of them just automatically looking at people unless they're trying to get board certified or become a judge. To look at those types of qualifications, but I don't ever like to get attorney complaints. But that's going to trigger something, yeah, for sure.
All right, just another question again with my law and order background. What makes an attorney become a judge? When do you want to be a judge? Do attorneys seek to be a judge? Of course they would. What's the process?
Once again, that answer depends on what county, and we'll go to Florida, what county in Florida you're in. And certain counties, all you have to do is just become a licensed attorney in Florida, and this is going to be really more based on population. Then other counties, you might need to have 5 years of practice in good standing. It just differs county by county.
Okay. Are you familiar with any attorneys that you know that became judges?
I am, but I don't want to talk about it because people are going to excuse me of.
Okay. So there's another thing that we learned today on the show. You got to be careful when you're talking about judges.
Well, the judges that I know and that I, obviously backed in campaigns and believe in are amazing people.
Sure.
And the judges are people too. They're more isolated because, like we talked about earlier, they have to remain impartial, and you can't have what we call ex parte communication. So I can't, if you were a judge, be like, hey, James, I want this favor done in this case or whatever. No, it doesn't work that way. That's really wrong.
I can imagine you have to be careful just in your regular life to not run into those situations
Yes.
all the time.
It's a huge thing. And attorneys, we have that too, but judges are, a higher standard. They
Sure.
cannot have this appearance of impropriety.
Right. I know my background just in coaching, you'd be someone, oh, let me, coach, come on, coach, cut the line, come on in front. You realize you can't do that.
Yeah. They're
Okay.
always watching.
Nice. So there's a little knowledge for you. All right, Gary, when was the last time you had to hire an attorney? No, just kidding, Gary. I wouldn't put you on the spot like that.
What month is this?
No, okay. So with Febre and the real estate thing, you guys run into legal issues, I imagine. Realtors do all the time as far as too many people want to buy this house or there's some legal issue about the home itself. Brandon has relayed stories to me where he'll have a buyer in ready to go, and then some inspection or whatnot, he'll have to struggle, and he'll find someone who has to interpret the way the statute is. So one house inspector may not be the same as another house inspector. Lauren's saying that lawyers are different across the board, some good, some bad. When you guys work with people that want to sell their home, I imagine some are very difficult. They're on you all the time saying this picture, that picture, I want this done, I want that done, and some guys let you do your thing, huh?
The ones that have used us a while know what we do. They let us do our
Okay.
thing. The trust thing is built up there, and it's amazing. Like you're reading my notes again. I was going to tie in the legal thing again, and I'll finish up with that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's like every business. I mean, there's you mentioned inspectors.
Mm-hmm.
They have guidelines that they're supposed to use, and if you have some that don't follow those guidelines, the reputation's going to follow them, and they'll get weeded out. Same with us. And if you're doing things right, those reputations get thrown over there, and they will go with Febre because they're proven. So
I know that's Brandon always just has Febre all the time. He recommends you guys to everybody. He has a relationship where he knows the work you guys do. So it's how do you build that? You just got to go out there and do it and show them what you can do, and they'll see the difference between your work and others.
Exactly, and comparison is the best way. Not only the quality, but also somehow the Febres have kept the pricing down so low. There's some other companies out there trying to do what they're doing. They might offer a similar price, but you don't get all the photos that we provide. You don't get the editing, next day delivery, and you don't get the free drones.
That's
so
the key. Brandon talks about timeliness a lot. People are on you. I want to sell this property. I got to sell this property. They're judging their quality of the realtor by how fast they get responses, how soon the phone rings. So having you guys respond and get the photos up there, that's a key part of his whole thing.
Yeah, because you get a listing today, or you secure a listing, you want to get it listed as soon as possible. You don't want to wait a week for photos.
Absolutely.
So getting an appointment with us in a day or two is key to that. And also one note on the legal side, a lot of these companies, when you use their photography, they retain ownership of the photos. So you're not able to post them on social sites. In other words, they still own the photograph.
I see.
Their property. Not with Febre. It's you pay for it. It's yours. You can get it branded. You can put it on social media. Any marketing you want. Those are your photos once you
Well, that's a
bought them.
critical piece that you might not have thought of. It certainly didn't occur to me that I wouldn't own the photos. I mean, it's my house. I hired you guys. I want to be able to use those pictures whenever I want. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's something that Febre offers that certainly I didn't occur to me. For folks out there considering a real estate transaction, you might want to hire Febre just because you get to own those photos.
They're yours forever.
Very good. Then you won't have to hire an attorney to come in and wrestle them away from somebody else.
I guess if you wanted both of us, you could. Yeah.
We'll offer a special.
That's what we do here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Partnerships, right? Business working together. All right, stay with us. When we come back, we're going to tell you about that feel-good story I told you about. 102-year-old woman gets to stay in her house, and I'm going to tell you why. And then, of course, we're going to have our finishing summaries from our guests here in studio. Don't go anywhere. The Consumer Quarterback Show rolls on.
Hey, this is Grant Cardone, and you're listening to Consumer Quarterback Show, hosted by my friend Brandon Rhymes. Do not touch that dial. I'll come right through the radio and grab your throat.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com.
Ian Beckles here with my man.
This is the Cannabis Podcast, powered by Trulieve on Radio Influence. It's an inside look and the scientific facts in and around the world of medical cannabis. Now, here is your host, Ian Beckles.
He's a successful entrepreneur, published author, top listing agent, a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. You're listening to the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes, cutting through your typical media nonsense and offering you a rational and unbiased perspective on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
That's right. ConsumerQB.com is where you can find all the partners that you listen to on the Consumer Quarterback Show. We're also available on lots of video replay. The WeBeam TV, of course, is our home for our webcast. But Binge Networks is now carrying the show. So any smart television out there, you can find the Consumer Quarterback Show. You're looking for bingenetworks.tv and search the Consumer Quarterback Show. So we're available all over the place. SoundCloud, Pippa, Facebook. You find the Consumer Quarterback Show, and Brandon will make sure that we're providing some information that makes you a better consumer and make your dollar go a little bit farther in the marketplace. We got a feel-good story coming up, again, a Brandon Rhymes tradition of putting some positivity into every program. We're going to make sure that we tell you that. And I'm just visiting now with Lauren Frieder from Frank Charles Miranda Law and Garry Schofield from Febre Frameworks. We're talking a little bit about the law and about real estate photography and all the things out there that you might need to know. I want to alert you to an opportunity for our veterans and first responders. September 12th, 6 to 8:30, Brandon has got the captain, Matt Bruce, and himself available for any veteran or first responder that wants to find out about the programs that are in place for you. There's a lot of real estate programs for veterans and first responders, and of course the captain knows everything about what's going on. This is your chance to get out, meet these guys, and find out what they can do for you. We got catering by Amici's as well. Should be a great night. September 12th, 6 to 8:30, American Legion Post 5, right down there in downtown Tampa off Kennedy Boulevard. All right, so we talked a little bit today about real estate, and one of the things I wanted to do was tie it into this feel-good story I've got. So this poor lady, 102 years old, she lives in California, and there was a couple of folks that found out that she was being evicted. So they put on their Facebook, her name is Thelma. It says, Thelma has been a dear friend for a long time. Can you imagine doing this to a 102-year-old woman who gave back to the community her whole life? It's heartless. So in response to that, a couple of folks realized that this lady needed a hand, and one of them was Arnold Schwarzenegger. So Arnold is coming to the rescue of a 102-year-old woman who's being forced to leave her California home. According to the eviction notice, longtime Ladera Heights resident Thelma Smith is being forced out of her home so the landlord's daughter can move in. So it really doesn't sound right. And Arnold said that's not correct. So he's going to jump in after living there 30 years. He said the woman needs some help, and he's going to provide that help. So again, social media, I don't care for it. A lot of times I find that it's just superfluous, or it creates issues or problems, or it's divisive. But there are certainly aspects where it can help and do good things out there. So if you feel like you can do something for somebody, we encourage you to go ahead and take that first step, pay it forward, be the first one, and that way when it comes back around to you, you can say, I started this whole thing. But we want you to do something good, and that's Brandon's commitment to you. All right, so back in studio now with Lauren and Garry, and we're going to just summarize a little bit about some of the stuff we learned today. Again, you may think you know a lot about the law. as I did, because I watch a lot of television shows. But that doesn't give you any background at all, and you find out that you may get yourself in trouble if you're just going off your law and order background. So, Lauren, just summarize a little bit of some of the we talked about attorneys and litigators versus going to court and not going to court. What are some of the things, just takeaways that you want folks to remember?
Some really important takeaways is, when you're trying to decide on picking the right attorney, you need to really think about what it is that I want or need to accomplish. It doesn't always have to be a litigator, which means we go to court. It might be best served through a different type of specialty attorney. So you really need to, going back to due diligence, think about what it is that you want to accomplish or need to. You also need to be thinking about money. It's expensive oftentimes to hire an attorney, but sometimes it's smarter. Actually, it's always smarter to hire an attorney up front to give you an opinion, because it's going to save you money in the long run. And that's something I love to do, is to offer ahead of time, let's make sure things are in place so you can avoid being in court.
Do you find folks bring up money at all? I mean, everyone wants a bulldog. I want the guy who's going to kill, just get in there and just kill everyone in court. But they don't think about the cost. They don't think about the knowledge. It's just a history of aggression.
Yeah, you would think, actually they do talk about money a lot. So they definitely want that pit bull. They want you there. They want you working. You know a litigator because we're tired all the time. They want all that stuff. But then when it comes time to paying for it, even with the best results, there's always some pushback. So, I'm very clear, if I'm looking at an hourly rate case, you need to be ask the attorney, what do they charge an hourly rate for? What do the paralegals have an hourly rate? Is this a contingency fee matter? These things are different. If I'm paying hourly, do I have to pay a retainer? Is this retainer refundable versus non-refundable?
Just real quick, contingency. Just define that. You just mentioned a term there.
Oh, contingency fees. So a contingency fee, most commonly, is where people are going to think of personal injury cases, auto crashes. They're not accidents. Is when you have a case and you say, we'll take your case on. We're going to vet the case to see if it's a good case or not, which I hope all attorneys are doing. I don't see that happening these days. And then depending on if it settles in pre-suit, we're going to take 33 1/3%. This is all Florida bar guidelines.
Okay. Now, so that percent is not negotiated. It's already in the law.
It's in the Florida bar guidelines. Now you can go ahead and you can talk to the attorney and ask them to take it. Hey, and we've done this for people. Maybe we'll do a 20% in what we call pre-suit before we file the lawsuit. But the standard language is 33 1/3%. Now, not all cases can be done in contingency. That's going to, when I think of child support, I think, is one of the big areas, and I believe criminal. And like I said, this is why you want something in a specialty. No, absolutely, because there's so many areas.
Sure.
And then once the lawsuit's filed, if the defendant files an answer, now under what we're talking about, the Florida bar rules, if you just sign the typical contract, it's a 40% contingency fee. So pretend somebody recovers in trial $100,000. There's $40,000 in attorney fees, because the attorney is taking a gamble. They don't know if they're going to get paid on the case or not. Versus if I'm charging an hourly fee rate for something else, I know I'm getting paid literally by the minute.
Okay. So it's kind of his evaluation of the case. As you present the case to the attorney, they're going to say, well, this may qualify as a contingency if they feel like there's a positive result in the offering.
Yeah. And then they, be honest with them and make sure that you're asking the attorney all those right questions too. How many of these types of cases have they taken before? How long have they practiced in this area? Do they have the resources and the staff to even facilitate your case in the right way? It's very, very important that people know this, because if an attorney doesn't have the money to put up for costs, if we're talking about trials, hiring experts for trials are $20,000 a piece for an expert, $30,000. So those are monies that the attorney has to put up front, and you're hoping, of course, that you win. It's a gamble.
Yeah. I can imagine, again, with my background in television law, I see them all the time using private detectives. So every attorney on TV has a PI that he's sending out to check this out or check that out, but they got to pay that guy.
That is actually a very true TV statement. We do use PIs all the time, private investigators. I actually like to think I'm a great one myself, because we're always having to uncover the truth. But yes, most law firms, if they're doing the kind of business that we do, we have a private investigator that we can hire if needed, depending on the case. Insurance companies almost always have a private investigator following you once you filed a lawsuit.
I just want to go back a little bit. You talked about pricing. Of course, everyone's concerned about price, but you don't come right out and say, how much does it cost to hire this attorney? I'm curious to know, when you're shopping, how you're going to get a fee idea, or how do you get an idea of what the rates and fees are for various attorneys?
Well, an attorney that gives you just a simple answer that says it should just cost just as much is probably wrong.
Yeah, because there's too many factors,
There's
right?
too many variables. So you really need to talk to them about what their hourly rate is. Hey, if it gets to this, this is the type of money maybe I have to spend on this case. What happens if we run out of this money? Then what do I do? Because the attorney might withdraw. So you need to be asking all those kinds of questions. There's always, for us, we will do whatever we can to help the person.
Sure.
Of course, we're here to make money, but I became an attorney because I believe in sticking up for people.
Right.
That's the most important thing for me. So if there's a will, there's a way.
All right, out there. So Frank Charles Miranda Law. This is Lauren Frieder. She's going to help you if you need help. But the information she's providing is for everyone out there to think about going forward in a legal matter, how best to pursue that, and who you need on your side. All right, Garry, let's finish up with Febre. We want to make sure folks out there know what you guys offer and what the difference is between just having a picture of the front of your house taken with your phone and having somebody out there with a professional photographer.
You did it again. Good job, James. The photos, and there's some good, pretty good camera phones or phone cameras out there. It's the number of pixels that when you move that picture onto your computer or upload it into something, and we've all seen the little half-size photos, very low pixels, hard to see. Nobody's going to look at that.
Right.
The real grainy ones, low pixels. All of our photography or professionals use HDR, high definition resolution, so that, and it's 2 to maybe 8 times more pixels,
right,
depending on the programs that you use. So
greater depth, more color, just looks deeper.
Everything's better. Everything's better with.
Well,
thought of an old commercial.
Well, when you take a picture, I dated a girl who she did things with her phone I couldn't imagine. She had this different apps that she could use to record things. It was incredible. But as far as the pictures go, you cannot increase the camera is the camera on a phone. You cannot make him. You can do a lot of things in post, but you cannot make it richer or thick or deeper color.
No, you can't enhance it. You can play with it. You have all these apps where you can put adjust it or make all these little things, which is fun, but it doesn't serve a purpose in selling real estate. I guess that's all I can say about those apps. But
but the idea that the greater the eyeballs on your photos, the more money you're going to get for your property, the less days it's going to spend on the market. All that stuff's been proven through time.
I agree. You get more showings, quicker offers and closings, and I forget the number, but it's pretty close to the listed price, or how many homes with professional photography are within a % or 2 of the listed price or the asking price.
Brandon quotes numbers all the time. I'm amazed at the big difference. It makes a huge difference. The other thing that I wanted to point out for folks is the virtual staging. When you guys come in to do that, does the house have to be ready for? It has to be empty, right?
Yeah, we can't improve through the edit process. We can't add a fireplace or something. So if there's a garbage can or something in the way, or a piece of rug, or maybe they didn't clean it. If the room is empty, it needs to be swept and cleaned.
Right.
The better the product, the better the finished photo is going to be, of course.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Febre's going to do everything they can to get your property sold. Get in touch with those guys if you're thinking about it, because once you see the difference, you're going to realize, man, it makes quite a bit of a difference in terms of viewers out there, eyeballs you get on your stuff. All right, so great show today. Thanks so much for Lauren coming in, and Gary's here giving us some knowledge. I want to thank all you guys out there listening and encourage you to go to the Consumer Quarterback website, take a look at all our partners, and see if you can do business with them. We know these folks, and they're going to do the best by you. And don't forget about this September 12th event with Catering by Amici's at the American Legion. You can meet Captain Matt Bruce and the Consumer Quarterback himself, Brandon Rhymes. They're going to do their best to provide some information for first responders and vets. As always, keep us in mind. Consider committing a random act of kindness, and do that for everybody, and do that for each other. Would you do that? Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
You've been listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Whether it's real estate, consumer, or financial advice, let Brandon call your next play. Contact Brandon Rhymes at 813-670-7372. That's 813-670-7372. Online at consumerqb.com. And join us next time for The Consumer Quarterback Show, weekday afternoons at 5 on AM 1380. The Biz.
Are you a real estate agent looking to take your business to the next level and supercharge your marketing? Hi, I'm Brandon Rhymes, owner of Platinum MVP Realty and host of the Real Estate Quarterback Show, syndicated radio and TV show talk program on iHeartRadio, 102.5 The Bone, daily 5 o'clock drive time on 1380 The Biz, and our TV show is on WeBeam TV. We're looking for real estate agents that want to join our team and supercharge their marketing utilizing some of our innovative strategies. We utilize the Real Geeks platform, Facebook marketing, internet marketing, and a lot of the traditional methods as well. Postcard mailers mailed for you, postage, signage, business cards, all paid for by the company. Aggressive real estate splits and ways to help you win in any marketplace. We need you to go out, take applications, and work our plethora of leads that we're generating on a daily basis. Reach out by clicking the form below, and we'd love to have a confidential interview with you.